right, everybody. We've got two very special guests for you this week. I want everyone to welcome to the show Rich Douek and Alex Cormack. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Absolutely. Yeah.
And commend Chris on nailing both the names. Proud of you. That was awesome.
Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, we don't get to always have the writer and artist on a book coming out or already out, Breath of Shadows. So we're going to talk about that today. But we also want to put you guys through the ringer of the origin story of how you started working together. And sorry for that, but we have to do it. So, let's just start there. How did you guys start working with each other and get to the Breath of Shadows?
So we started out basically. Alex and I had both been working in comics separately. I had been, but we both were very friendly with Comics Tribe, which is a smaller publisher. But we were doing separate projects with them, but we would be hanging out at the booth at New York Comic Con, and just just getting to know each other, like not even as like a working together kind of thing, but we would basically just hang out, and I would look at what Alex was doing, he would look at what I was doing, and then he started doing this horror book called Sync, which I saw that and I was like, wow, that's really awesome. And I had this project in mind for a really gritty horror story called Road of Bones. So so I showed it to Alex. I really just kind of like verbally, I didn't have anything because I'm a terrible artist. So I really just kind of like talked to him about it. And he loved the idea. So Alex, what went through your head when I
so like like Rich said, we'd always see each other at shows, like especially at New York Comic Con. And but yeah, it was just I remember we were like at like somebody's table just kind of chit chatting. Rich just kind of grabbed me and said, "Come here, I gotta pitch you an idea." And I was like, "Sure, all right." He's like, "All right, I got this idea. It's about like a Russian gulag. It's like a prison escape." And all of a sudden, it was one of those like kind of just gave me the pitch, and I was like, "Dude, like even if you want me to just staple the books, like whatever you want me to do, that's badass.
I want to be on it
no matter what."
Yeah. That's awesome.
But it just kind of we did that project and had a great time, and that evolved doing Sea of Sorrows, and that went into now Breath of Shadows.
Yeah. So where did that come? Was that just a combination of both of you guys coming up with this idea, or did Breath of Shadows come from?
Sorry.
I was going to tell the location story.
Yeah, go for it.
So what happened was with Road of Bones, I told Rich that I was psyched because I'm from New England, where it's I live in Vermont, and there's snow on the ground outside right now and all that, so I told him, I was like, I'm psyched to just draw snow in a book, that was great. And I said I always wanted to do something in the snow, something on an ocean, and something like in a jungle. And Rich was just like, all right, I'll be right back. And he came with that. He's like, here's Sea of Sorrows, and there's the ocean, and they're like, all right, Breath of Shadows, the jungle. And
yeah. I mean, like there was a point like Road of Bones did pretty well, and IDW was like, we want to see more stuff from you guys. And Alex and I were just kind of talking about it, and I don't think either one of us was really into doing like a direct sequel where it'd be like Road of Bones 2 like on the ocean or something like that. We're really happy with kind of how that series came out and ended, and didn't really have any more to say with those characters, but we really took a look at for us like what made the book really work, and for that it was just kind of this place where like historical horror story, like something horrible that happened in history, and a supernatural part of it, and a psychological part of it as well. So like just these kind of three aspects of horror kind of coming together to tell a unique story at like a certain point in time. So that was kind of what our guiding light was when we were like thinking of like what are we going to do as follow-ups. So for Sea of Sorrows, I knew we wanted to be on the ocean. Alex showed me this commission he did of like a guy in like an old time diver suit. So I was like, oh, we got to do that. Like, it has to be like underwater, that kind of diving suit. So I was kind of looking into the eras when that diving suit was being used. And that's how we did Sea of Sorrows. And then for Breath of Shadows, we were thinking like the jungle, and I'd always wanted to do something like set in the 60s. And I feel like kind of like the go-to jungle in like the 60s would have been to do something in Vietnam with like the war or something.
Right.
But, you know, there's been so many great Vietnam stories and Vietnam horror stories. We just kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. And
the like choice to do like a rock band, where did that come from? Like, and dealing with addiction and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that kind of came from just kind of like looking at the era and like what was going on there. You know, there was a lot, like there was the Vietnam War, there was the civil rights struggle, there was the hippie movement, and like the funny thing, like rock and roll in a way was kind of like at the center of it all, you know, or at least, and it plays a big, because I wasn't alive like in the 60s, you know, my parents were, but so really kind of the only way that I experienced the 60s was through things like movies and TV and music. And I think music is the most the one that like kind of hit the deepest chord with me, because it's, you know, it was kind of the thing where like when I was a kid, like my dad was really into oldies. So like would be driving in the car and like that's what would be playing. And I would hear all these songs and all the things that they were singing about. And, you know, it was this moment in time where like all these bands kind of were singing as if they were going to change the world and remake it into this like, you know, beautiful, wonderful place of like love and peace and happiness. And well, look at us now. So that, so that was kind of, you know, kind of like wanting to explore that, I think was kind of a really big part of what inspired us to set it around a rock band.
And I read the first issue. I really liked it. I was really creeped out by some of the art, and I think it was an interesting idea to deal with like the addiction and like coming down as like, you know, everybody says it's like bugs under your skin, but I think Alex, the way you draw that, like, it's hard for me to read some of those pages just because of like, you know, you get like an itch and you're like, oh shit, is something crawling on me? Like, how did you guys collaborate with that? Were you just drawing creepy shit and like, yeah, this is gonna work? Or
there was one of the issues I think I told Rich, I'm like, dude, I have to draw this with like my pants tucked into my socks just because right.
It's got to be hard to do, I imagine.
My goal is always to write a book that will make Alex feel as uncomfortable as possible. You know, what I'm asking him to draw.
Lucky him.
But then I think his goal is to then draw something that will creep me out. So it's just we just keep one-upping each other.
That's awesome.
Seems to be working.
Yeah. It's a great.
Well, it was nice because we like when we started issue 1, like even that first page, like it's not a spoiler, it's page 1, like he's
right.
Like looking for
right into it.
All of a sudden all these pieces like puke out of his arm everywhere, and they're all over his face, and I've said this before, but like the worst thing for me was like drawing the centipedes. I was like, I'll just wing it, you know. I know what a centipede looks like. I'll just make it up. But every time I try to draw one from memory, it just didn't look anything like centipedes. Like they looked like just snakes with legs, and I'm like, all right, I gotta get some research. I gotta actually. I mean, the simplest thing, just Google centipede. Right. And, it's awful. Like, every other image was like secretly a GIF, and it would like jump at me. I'm like, Jesus God. So then I was very happy to send it to Rich, and he's like, oh, this is gross. I'm like, oh, good. All right, I'm glad I grossed you out, because this is awful.
Yeah, it was funny that actually like just happened. Like, what was that, Alice? Like 2-3 nights ago, like he sent me a page and was like, okay, I know what you wrote in the script, but I had this other idea as I was drawing it, and Alex's idea was like 10 times as gross as what I had originally asked him to do. So
he's like, it'll spoil it. I don't know.
Well, he's like, I'll just say like he's like, if you don't like it, you know, we can go back to what you had. And I was like, it's like, no, I kind of love it. He was like, good, because I wasn't going to redo it anyway.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that the book is like getting better, not because it's to further the story or like the elaborate story, but it's like you guys just one upping each other how gross it can be. It's like, nah, we're just gonna do this instead. And like,
well, we got to have a little fun,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Totally.
I mean, comics is hard work, but you
Yeah.
want to enjoy yourself too.
Yeah. And what he said, I mean, no spoiler. I mean, not really any spoilers there because it is the first page. Like opening up to that, like, what the hell am I about to read? Like, how many more centipedes am I going to have to like get by to do that? But and then you kind of like you really break through the boundaries of the normal paneling too. Is that something you're comfortable with doing, Alex? Like, or do you usually put a boundary for yourself, or you're like, no, I'll just do whatever?
No, it's just to make it. I mean, just to make it look interesting and make it legible. Like And Justin Birch, our letterer, is a huge help with that because like some points I'll do a page and then I'll go back and I'm like, oh man, like panel 2 looks like panel 3, and Justin comes in like, I got you, boom, 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 and like, oh, now it reads like wicked smooth. But some of those, especially the ones where he's like tripping and everything, and like it's going crazy, just try to give those crazy panels along with it. It's it's all service to the story and try to tell the story the best I can.
And in those moments throughout the book where the character is tripping, as you said, what kind of research did you do there, Alex?
Oh, I'm all on all sorts of Well, all right, so stuff like that. I mean, I never did any hard drugs or anything like that. I mean, but I've always been like it. Like I've never done that stuff, but I've always been it. Like I love like basic things. Like I grew up watching Train Spotting all the time.
Yeah, right.
Reading like Irvin Welsh and oh God, Rich, what's the author that we keep talking about?
William S. Burroughs.
Yeah.
And
it's like stuff like that. So and also knowing these rock bands and all this stuff, and even the rock bands from when I was growing up, like the grunge movement, when all those guys were on drugs and all this. So like I'm seeing all this from like an outside point of view, which is I'm very happy to be seeing it from an outside point of view. As far as like these guys like tripping out and all that stuff, just like just hearing from horror stories from other people or like
right,
because I mean
I did a lot of research in college with that stuff, but not so much recently.
I mean
but yeah, I mean, like part of it, some of it comes from like lived experience. I'm lucky enough to never have like struggled with like an addiction, like in that way where like, I felt like, where like it affected my life, but I do have known people who have, and also like Alex read a lot and watched a lot, like kind of in that arena. So, we definitely we're trying to approach it as like realistically as you can, like in a horror comic book with centipede monsters, but just to sort of like treat it, seriously, because it is like a pretty serious thing.
Yeah. And I guess since we have you guys here, we haven't really like gotten into the whole like plot synopsis. I don't know if you want to just get into that, Rich, because I have like,
sure.
I kind of have a question of like where I see the book going, but I don't know, I want to spoil anything or just what you can confirm or what. So give us that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Sure. So it takes place in the 1960s, and basically like in LA, you've got this band called the Shades. They're kind of like an amalgam of like the Doors and the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, just like a very big band. And the lead singer Jimmy Meadows is
it's a great lead singer name, by the way, Jimmy Meadows.
Thanks.
Like, Jimmy, yeah, I don't know. It rang pretty nicely. So
yeah, so Jimmy's got a lot of problems. He's a drug addict. He's got writer's block. Feels like there's this new kind of wave of psychedelic peace and love kind of rock coming up, and he doesn't really know how to kind of connect to it in anything other than like a superficial way. So he's kind of like lost, like he can't write a new album. His band's pressuring him to write new material because if they're not, they kind of feel like, if they're not putting out new stuff, they're going to get forgotten. So then his manager turns him on to this book by an author from the 50s who was also addicted to drugs, but went on a sort of pilgrimage to Central America to find, this supposedly spiritual drug kind of cure that cured him of his addiction, opened his mind, and basically changed his life. And it's presented as a book of fiction, but the manager says like, no, it's real. Like, like if you're a big fan of the guy, that like this really happened and this drug is really down there and you can go. And so why don't we go down, and take it? And it's like, you sort of get the impression, like, is he really doing this? Or is he just sort of like getting him to go down there to kind of like dry out a little bit and try to inspire him and stuff like that. So he heads down to Mexico, and hooks up with this research team that's going out into the jungle to investigate some newly discovered ruins, because what the hell does a rock star know about like going on a jungle expedition? So that's kind of like the deal they make, is like, we'll finance part of the expedition, but we have to come along. And the researchers are thrilled to have him there, let me tell you.
Yeah, they seem it.
Yeah. So that's basically like the setup of the story, is that he's kind of gone down there on this trip to find enlightenment, and as you'll see in the later issues, kind of gets way more than he bargained for in that respect.
Shenanigans ensue.
Yeah.
The book you mentioned, is this based on a real book, or is it actually a real book? Or
yeah, it's loosely based on this book. We call in the story, we call it El Peruaca, which is has nothing to do with the country of Peru. It's the name of an actual Mayan ruin site that was discovered in the 1960s. So kind of like a really convenient little historical fact that lines up with the story. But anyway, the real book is called The Yage Letters by William S. Burroughs. And Yage is basically a name for what the drug we now call ayahuasca, which, back then was not like mythical, but definitely a little more like, it wasn't like mainstream. You know what I mean? Like people down in Central South America, it was, fairly common, but like for most people in, America and North America and the rest of the world, it was kind of like, what is that stuff? So, and like, you wouldn't know like where to get it. So like now, like if you want to take ayahuasca, you can like book like a 4-star resort and like go, and, you got like a hut with like your own personal shaman who's going to guide you through, so back then it was a little more like, just sort of like rumors and things like that. But anyway, so William S. Burroughs went down in real life to find this drug, and the Yage Letters is kind of his chronicle of that journey. And it's an interesting book. Definitely some stuff in there that like you'd probably frown upon today. I mean, it was written in like the 50s and the 60s. So as we say, different time, but it, it is like a pretty cool book and a pretty cool story. So
quick side tangent. One of the most surreal things that happened last year was watching Sunday Night Football, and they did a whole thing with Aaron Rodgers about ayahuasca before the game. And I'm watching like these real like serious journalists be like, "How was doing ayahuasca?" I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That was what he said. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, it is fine.
It's a thing. And a lot of people use it today, like in the way that like Jimmy is attempting to use it in the thing. Maybe not so much to deal with addiction, but it's like a lot of times it's like a psychological thing, like, because they say it's, good for depression, anxiety, like, I have never done it, but I've read a lot about it and watched a couple of documentaries on it and stuff. So it seems pretty cool.
And I know you wanted to really draw some jungle stuff here too, Alex, and you get one pretty big fabulous page in the first issue, but I can assume we're probably going to see more of that to come, right?
I remember when that first issue, I was like, oh, come on, man, I just get one page. And like that was the thing with CSRs too. We like the creature design was like I'm gonna for anybody pick that, not spoiler or anything, but I was so excited to draw this thing. I was like, I can't wait. And it was a smart move, but Rich was like, I'm sitting on it till like issue 4. I'm like, oh, come on, man.
I need the reveal.
Like,
yeah.
And,
oh, nice. We have another guest.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, but and like, yeah, issue 2 and on, it's all jungle. And my wife started to do the coloring. And she's like, God, these goddamn leaves. Like, I'm so sick of them. Like, these legs and these leaves. I mean,
yeah. I was gonna say there is some. I see some similarity in the art of like the centipedes grabbing him and a lot of the jungle leaves. And was that kind of done on purpose?
You bet.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, I don't know if it's that deep to understand, but yeah. But both of them look like a pain in the ass to get right when you're drawing that stuff.
Yeah, it's funny.
Oh, but I mean, dude, that like, yeah. Once I got the hold of the centipedes, I'm like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
And the jungle was like, I mean, yeah, that especially the page of the first issue. I remember that morning getting up and be like, I'm gonna draw this. This is gonna be so much fun. And but it's just been like every single one of them, like a wide shot in there, it's just been a delight. And there's some shots in this the issue that like I'm like a little more than halfway through the final issue, and like some of my favorite drawings were like in this one. I was like, oh man, this is like so much fun to draw and stuff.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna try this and this.
It's funny because when Alex and I were working on Road of Bones, I was also working on another book called Wailing Blade with Joe Mulvey at Comic Shop, like we mentioned before. And so Wailing Blade was like this kind of like sci-fi Mad Maxy kind of epic Joe was just drawing like a lot of intricate backgrounds, and I would be showing like the books are coming out at the same time, and Joe started yelling at me. He'd be like, what the hell? It's like, Alex is just drawing no backgrounds because it's all in the snow. It's like you give him like the easy jobs. It's like you have him do something in the snow, and like you're like, you want this stuff to like happen in like an arena with like millions of people. Like he loved it.
Yeah.
And honestly, he didn't have to draw it. I'm like, you're doing it to yourself, dude. Like,
right. Yeah.
He's like, I had to figure out this like flower or whatever, like this interesting flower or what is it, like the lineage.
Yeah. But every issue of Road of Bones that came out, Joe would just like give me shit. So when we started this,
and then CSRs too is like under the water. It's like,
CSRs too is all black.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
So I told Joe that I'm getting him justice with this book because it's all in the jungle, and Alex has a lot of leaves to draw all over the place. Yeah,
that's amazing. That is so awesome.
And Alex, these covers, like I'm going through, they got the first 3 covers on previews right now. And they are just unreal.
Thank you. Yeah, those are so much fun to do.
I love how they look like next to each other too.
Yeah.
And issue 3 is just
the final one. I think I put them all like side by side, and it was. But yeah, those are like we were talking about. All right, what are we gonna do here? Like, what are the covers gonna be and all that, and I think Rich and I were just sounding like we should make them look like gig posters from that area and era, and. And so I started flipping through like, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but like looking through all these posters from back then, and like all these like Jimi Hendrix posters, all these like, and you know, like the Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, you know, all the pick a band, you know, they had something trippy going on, and yeah, so then I just kind of jumped in and like was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do this, but it's gonna tie into like a horror thing, and yeah, the first poster cover, I was like, oh, this is so much fun. I'm so happy how it came out and all this, and really kind of doing something like super psychedelic, which I haven't really done that much of. And I was like, great, there it is. And like, all right, we got to do another one for issue 2. I'm like, oh crap, what the hell am I going to do for issue 2? And each one I'm like, all right, how about this one? And now like they're all kind of wrapped up. I'm like, oh, I could do these forever. These are so much fun.
Yeah. And the colors are amazing too. I think you said your wife is doing the colors. Is she doing them on the covers as well?
Yeah, the cover's all me. And for the record, okay. she would come in and be like, "All right, hon, like, what do you think? Should I try this or should I?"
Yeah, right.
Because I would always have like maybe 5 or 6. It's like the same image but just different colors. Like, what do you think of it? It's blue or red, or if it's like kind of green over here, and I think her reaction most of the time was like, "Yeah, great, just."
Yeah, I think issue 5 with like the head splitting is just like insane.
Oh yeah, with the yeah.
That's crazy.
I'd say issue 3 is my favorite, but issue 1 is exactly what you're saying. Like I could see name a band from the 60s. Like,
right.
Sure,
like,
yeah, exactly. Sure. I just should pick anybody,
Yeah.
But yeah, number 3 was like I drew that sucker and I sent it to Rich, and Rich was like, "Yeah, this is great. Where are we gonna put the title?" And I was like, "Ah, god damn it. Let's shift this around, maybe let's move this. Does that work?" And he's like, "Yeah, great.
Move some things." Yeah, they're all really good.
Thank you.
And so this
like
is going
Virgin covers. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Sure, exactly.
Big money on mine.
I'm like, we're big enough. You don't need a title.
Yeah,
that's book 4. Just that.
For when the trade comes out, you just have the title on the spine. You're good.
That's right.
So the whole series is 5 issues, right, guys? It's just
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Issue 1's out. When can we expect issue 2?
It's the 1st, right?
March 1st? I think it's going to be March 1st, actually. So,
great.
Like exactly a month between them.
Oh, yeah. March 1st. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to hold for like all the other ones, but they're basically coming out monthly. So,
they're all scheduled for the first week of the month. So April 5th, May 3rd, so on.
All right.
So no pressure, guys.
Oh yeah,
no, I mean, like we're in the home stretch.
Yeah, like I said, I'm almost done with the last issue, and then just coloring. So
that's awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
So I'd love to know too. You guys are working with IDW on this, and with pretty much everything you guys have worked on together. And so you've been kind of doing these creator-owned books through IDW, and obviously you have a good relationship if they keep coming back to you or you keep coming back to them. Yeah. Was there any change when they went with this IDW Originals for you, or is that just like a different header on your comic?
I mean, yes and no. It changed because with IDW Originals, like a new editor-in-chief came on and a new publisher, like a lot of the staff changed up. So we had an editor named Bobby Curnow that we worked with on Road of Bones and Sea of Sorrows. We loved working with him, but he decided to leave IDW shortly before the changeover. So we were working with a guy named Chase Moritz, who's a great guy. He's been worked out really well. Super easy to work with. And I think it's like the people changed, but the process didn't really change. And also it's not like, oh, like all the good people left and now we're stuck with shitty people. It's like, it's like, it was just like sort of like a different group of people that we got to know, but really liked. And then I think the other thing is that I think when we brought them Road of Bones, they almost didn't know what to do with it. Like they knew they liked it, but and they wanted to get behind it, but they were just sort of like, this is like kind of a crazy horror book. We're not really sure if it's going to click with people. We want to put it out, but we don't really know. But it actually wound up doing very, very well for them. So then they got like all in behind Sea of Sorrows. That did really well. So then like Breath of Shadows was like kind of like even more like, or at least I feel like they're like kind of even more behind it. Just in terms of like, feeling like supported and feeling like, that they're marketing it and like they're like really going all out for it. So there is that difference, but I don't know that if that is as much a consequence of IDW Originals kicking off as it is just that like we've been doing well with them. So they want to, keep that going.
I do think from an outside point of view with IDW Originals, they have put more into it because I see the books more, where it felt like the creator-owned stuff IDW was doing before, if you didn't look through previews really deeply, you didn't see them.
Well, it was always kind of like, okay, what does IDW do? They're like, okay, well, they do TMNT, they do Transformers, G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, and like whatever. Like, I think that's all the licensed stuff is like what people have always kind of thought of them first. And then any kind of creator-owned stuff was like, oh yeah, like they also do. If you are not like Lock and Key, which is, they're like a legit like huge hit for them. It was just sort of like, oh yeah, and like what, we don't really know like what else they do like creator-owned wise. Yeah. But things changed at the company, like G.I. Joe and Transformers both stopped. TMNT is still going strong, but it's just like they kind of shifted what the company does and what they want to be. It's like they still want to do the licensed stuff. Like, they're still putting a lot of weight behind like Star Trek, TMNT stuff, Godzilla, I think they also do, but they really, really wanted to build a strong stable of like original stories. And that's why IDW Originals exist. And it's been great. Like Scott Snyder's doing a book there and doing more books there, even after the current one. I think he's got more planned. So, they're really trying to kind of turn the corner on being known as like strictly for like licensed toys and TV shows and really try to make a mark with original stuff. So, we're very happy to help them.
Yeah.
That's awesome. They came out swinging with this first batch too. I mean, you guys with this book, books like Earth Divers and a bunch of other ones that have just been phenomenal. So it's great to see them actually make that push and succeed at it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Awesome, guys. Well, I mean, we loved having you on. We really appreciate your time. If our listeners and our viewers want to follow you guys and what you're doing, where would be the best place to send them for social media or websites?
I have not jumped ship on Twitter yet, so
you
can find me there. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram at @Douek. But again, it's like, who knows like what's going on with that site and stuff. So like the most reliable place is like, even if you don't do social media, you can go to my website, rdouek.com. I have a newsletter there. I try not to be too annoying with it. I only put it out like, once every couple of weeks, just to kind of keep people informed about what I'm doing and maybe give them a little peek in behind the scenes into like, the process and other stuff. So, yeah, like I would go to rdouek.com, sign up for the newsletter, but yeah, I'm still on Twitter, Instagram, any social media thing where you see Douek, it's probably me. There's not a ton of Doueks in the world, and I'm pretty sure I got there first on most of them. So
nice. Congrats.
There you go.
Yeah. What about you,
Alex? RDOUEK.
Yeah.
I gotta spell it out because it's a tough one.
There's an O in there. There's an O. Yep. Don't forget
it's not
that.
like, Smith. There we go.
Yeah. That's Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, I'm still hanging out on Twitter at Alex Cormack 4, and there's plenty of other Alex Cormacks in the world, I guess. So at least three other guys are people. At least I don't know. So I'm on there. Instagram, again, my name is Alex Cormack. Like the old school, like Facebook, that type of thing. Hive, is Hive still going on? I think I got one on there.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was like the wasn't that like that Twitter, like Twitter was kind of going nuts and like
then it shut down for a while.
The quick alternative.
Yeah, there was a good like 2 weeks where everybody was on it.
Yep. Almost. We almost had the big change.
But yeah, I mean, just Google my name and I'll show up somewhere. And I'm putting together a website right now, and so that'll be out eventually, and I'm sure it'll be on a Google page somewhere. So
great.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
To everybody out there listening or watching, I will have those links in the show notes down below, as well as the previews link to Breath of Shadows, so you can get the code, so you can go to your local comic shop and pick the book up, because it is fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for being on today. We appreciate your time, and we'll have to do it again.
Definitely.
Thanks. Yeah, this was great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.